A few rules, housekeeping rules before we do the introductions, right? I would like to appeal to us to kind of mute our mics to make it easy for the person speaking and not interrupt. There'll be a time where we'll tell everybody to mute or raise their hand so that they could speak. But for now, kindly mute your mics. And of course, secondly, this meeting is being recorded just to let you know that it's going to be available after this session. So if you're interested, I think we're actually going to send it to everybody who joined this meeting anyway. So, but just to let you know that we are recording this meeting and we're going to make it available after the session. And of course, the third thing is that we would also appreciate if you could use the chat box a little bit more because, of course, we all can speak at the same time and you might have thoughts, opinions, or questions even as you're discussing so that you don't forget. So let's just use the chat session more and we will be watching, we'll be reading your comments, we'll be reading your contributions and also your questions so that we can answer them after the session. So we have Patience here, we have Shegun, we have Oluchi, we have Nambal, and then we have Gloria and David. As part of the team, we're all here today to answer your questions and to give you more information about the grant. Introduce yourself. Let's get to know you. Thank you. Now we're waking up. Kanyang, I'm sorry, did I pronounce that correctly? Help me out. Nice to meet you, Kanyang, the founder and lead coordinator of Clear Aid Foundation, Jebu Miangu. I'm sorry, I'm from the Southwest, so in case I don't pronounce some of these names correctly, just forgive me, please. A mother of 3 boys, that's beautiful. Fun fact, she's a tomboy. Nice, we have a lot of tomboys here. You're welcome, Shegun, you're welcome. You like to have a king cobra as a pet. Wow, that's not a fun fact anymore. That's a huge discovery. Nice to meet you. You're welcome, Esther. Abraham Jeremiah Kasem, Program Manager, Future Now Development. One thing people don't know that is that you are shy. I can relate. So it's okay. You're welcome. We can accommodate your shy self here. Jeremiah Danasabe from Jos North Plateau State with CRDC PCG. You're welcome. We have 1 minute for the rounds of introductions. Sadiq, representing Grassroots Development Center for Peace and Social Justice. Oh yeah, I think you are from the same organization as Jeremiah. That's cool to have you both here. Welcome. Grace, welcome. Fun fact, you love to eat rice and bread. Cool. And of course, Victor loves dogs. Nice. O'Malley loves gossip. Interesting. Very, very interesting fun facts. Welcome, everyone. This is so good to meet you guys in 1 or 2 lines and we already know a lot, 1 or 2 things about you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Please keep it coming. We'll keep reading that and we'll keep reacting, but we have to move to the next session now because of time. So like I said, this info session is basically to give you more information about the micro grant that we put out, application that we put out last week or 2 weeks ago. Was that 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks. Last week, right? Okay. That we put out last week. We just want to tell you more about it. We want to tell you more about what vision we had in our hearts when we sort of designed that project. And of course, how we think that this would also catalyze a whole lot of approaches within the ecosystem to sort of now start to think about bigger things or bigger ways or bigger strategies to sort of create more opportunities for out-of-school children to thrive even beyond the 4 walls of a classroom. And we are going to dive straight into it. So for the first session or first section of this conversation, I'm going to invite Patience. She's going to talk about COAL, just to give you a brief background about what we are about and what we do and how we came about this project. And after that, I'm going to move it to Shegun, who is going to talk about the grant itself. So Patience, can we have you? Nice to meet you all, writing in the chat box. I'm going to be reading it while Patience sort of takes session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yanu. Just let me know, is the screen up and good? Because I couldn't check if that's up on the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Lovely. So thanks everyone, really. And we're so excited that, we got to this stage. My name is Patience Andrew. I currently am a volunteer as the executive director of the Custodians of African Literature, COLE. We call it COLE for short because I mean it's a lot easier to say. And sometimes I make fun to friends and I'm like, I don't even know what we're custodians of. But yeah, I just want to quickly tell you a little bit about ourselves. And this is literally me kind of, rushing through it before we come to talk about the grant and the reason why we're gathered here today. So in terms of the vision of our organization, so to a great extent, we believe in contribution as opposed to attribution of social change because we understand that there are numerous complexities that can either positively or negatively impact any, development outcomes or initiatives. So we are not one of those organizations who say that it's because of our initiative or, what we're doing that is a total transformation in the community because we understand that there are numerous players in the field and we can only contribute to development issues or challenges that we have. So for us as an organization is that we want to be able to contribute at the end of the day to an Africa that is really thriving, an Africa where every child, every young person has unfettered access to quality education, but are also able to lead fulfilling life because they have the essential skills that they need. So that is what we want to contribute to as an organization. And just forgive me because I'm also trying to let people into the session, just in case I keep going back and forth. All right. And then in terms of how we are, contributing to this, we have a mission, which is really about reducing inequality through alternative education and literary development. And if you followed our work over the years, you'll notice that we have a strong focus around supporting creatives, working with, youth, and supporting the whole creative ecosystem overall, even though, we have a strong bias for spoken word poetry. And I'm sure that for some of you who are quite familiar with our work, you understand that the spoken word industry is still growing. It's not as robust as you find in the music industry, and also for us, it's like really working to support young creatives within that sector to not just express themselves, but to be able to have the required skills that they need to contribute to social issues at the end of the day. And then we have 4 major approaches, and literacy is really one that sits at the core of who we are as an organization, because we strongly believe in alternative education. We believe that, for a child or a young person, being able to just read and write is the first step for them to be able to lead any fulfilling life. And we also reckon with the fact that literacy goes beyond just being able to read and write. There's a whole lot that we need to unpack when we come to talk about literacy. There's the aspect of critical thinking. There's the aspect of being able to communicate, public speaking, being able to reason for yourself and make sense of the world for yourself, which if you will agree with me, our educational system hasn't done a phenomenal work in that regard. So beyond just being able to read at COLE, one thing that we really want to support is literacy that is very holistic in terms of how we understand it beyond just numeracy, reading and writing, is to be able to, listen, right? Active listening and understand when you're engaged in any communication and supporting, critical thinking and creativity as well. Our second approach is focused on providing market access for young creatives, and we do this through our bookstore. So if you're very familiar again with our work, we have a bookstore that houses, different works by African authors, because we believe that for a very long time, I think it was even one of the reasons why we started COLE in the first place was the fact that we wanted to read African literature, but they weren't so accessible. And beyond just the accessibility, they weren't so affordable. So what we decided to do is to be able to create market access to support creatives in that sense, and make the bookstore available where people can have access to African writers and their works. But also as part of market access, we also want work with young creatives to be able to kind of support different advocacy initiatives that they do, but also ensuring that at the core of that is that young creatives get paid for the work that they do. So we're one that an organization that believes strongly that every artist should get paid, right, for their creativity. So that's what we do under that approach. And then the second one is really around advocacy. So we strongly believe in South-South Advocacy Initiative, because we believe that as much as there's this global buzz around sustainable development goals, for us is how do we understand the SDGs within the context of Africa, right? Because as much as Africa, as we know, will always want to, join in global initiatives or advocacy. But the question is, as we kind of join up and talk about those issues, to what extent is it contextual to our needs? To what extent are we engaging on those issues in a way that makes sense for us as Africans or as Nigerians, for instance? So we work with creatives, especially, to be able to advocate around different issues, impacting their communities or society at large. And maybe just to kind of share a very recent example of this is the partnership we did with the University of Leicester, where we engaged 3 poets from Plateau State and 1 poet from Zambia to just advocate on public health issues, right? How do we bring creative voices into that space to kind of promote their voice and agency in a way that also contributes to policy change in practices and systems is what we're aiming for. And young people need to be at the forefront of that. So that's something we definitely do in terms of our approach. And then lastly, other approach is really centered around development consulting services. And if you ask me what is our business model, I'll tell you that this is the foundation of our business model, because like Iyanu did say, we're just a team of international development experts volunteering really to run COAL, but then we provide consultancy services to more established NGOs within Nigeria and, even outside Nigeria. So we provide services in the area of research, evaluation, comms and branding materials, and you'll see that some of our team members have expertise in this area. So proceeds from those development consulting services is what we now use to develop to fund our development initiatives. So if you ask me what is our business model, I'll tell you that's what it is. We don't have big or huge grants from USAID, UN, and the likes. No, we believe that one way we can really give back to communities and societies that is close to our hearts is by ensuring that they have the right systems and processes in place, which during the session today we'll come to talk a little bit more about. And then in terms of, in case you're still wondering again, what is the structure of this organization? Who are these people and what do they do exactly? All of us are volunteers. Like 90% of our staff team are volunteers, right? And you hear me say that over and over again. However, we believe so much that for every system to work, there needs to be the right governing structures in place. So we currently have a board of trustee where we have about 6 members at the moment with different multidisciplinary expertise in finance, education, the literary space, and some of these board members are based in Nigeria, UK, and the US. And then we have the executive volunteers, which is where I kind of sit myself, Iyanu, Segun, to really run, like we focus on the management and operational management overall of the organization. And we are a team of experts, like I did say, in international development with expertise in monitoring, evaluation, and learning, communications, finance, and policy. And then we have a small team of interns and part-time staff who are, responsible for the day-to-day project coordination of our work. And this is really, really the heart of our work again, because we are an all-volunteer organization. We have a network of over 20 volunteers that we work with. Some of them are on this call. And really, these are the bedrock, or rather the foundation of our work, I'll say, in terms of field support and project implementation. And I'm sure some of us on the call would have, at some point interacted with some of these individuals. Yeah, so I'm going to stop there because we're not here today to talk about COAL as an organization, but really to share a little bit more with you around the grant. So thanks, and I'll pass it on now to Segun to kind of walk us through the micro education grant. Over to you, Segun.
All right, thank you, Patience, for that providing background to COAL and what we do at COAL. All right, good morning, everyone. As Patience rightly said, my name is Segun. And I'll be walking us through the program statement to provide a clear concept and clear understanding of the challenges we aim to address. More like walking us to why this grant, why the microeducation, why not food. Nigeria is suffering from food issues now, shortage, inflation and all of that. Why not something in that initiative? So I just wanted to give us a understanding of what we hope to address and why we are looking in this direction, so that we can appreciate the magnitude of the challenges. All right. First of all, prominent on the list of challenges is the fact that we have over 250 million children out of school globally, and about 763 million adults lack literacy skills. This is according to UNESCO, and this is just about last year's report. And the effect of this is that it has resulted in the loss of over $1 trillion in the global economy, right? So because you have less literate people, close to 1 billion people not literate, meaning that we don't, or companies cannot recruit the required skills set to get their job running. You could hear oftentimes, if you listen to the business community in Nigeria, they tell you that Nigerian graduates are not employable, or they tell you we don't have the requisite skill sets to get some certain jobs done. People cannot float some initiative because we don't have the required skill set. And what that means is that its impact on global economy. Now, another study done by UNESCO also showed that you have there's a teacher gap of about 15 million teachers gap in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, not just the whole of Africa now, this is Black Africa, the West Africa, the East Africa, the Central African Republic, and the like. So you have that range of 15 million gap. Now, you won't understand the gravity of just this number if you look at recent happening. I think sometimes in 2017 thereabouts in Kaduna, when when El-Rufai run teachers assessment, they found out that even in places where you have teachers who couldn't pass basic arithmetic, basic STEM exercises, which they give their students. This is not even WAEC standard questions. So not just the issue of lack of teachers, then the teachers with the requisite skills are also not available. Now, trickling down, bringing all of these data back home, we've looked at them from a global perspective so we can understand the scale of the problem. That education, there's a global problem within that sphere. But back home, let's drive it back home. You've heard, I'm sure we've watched the news all the time. We've read reports that Nigeria has the largest out-of-school children, right? And that's about 18.5 million. As at just 5 years down the line, it was about 10 million. Within the space of 5 years, we've added additional 8.5 million. And this has been excavated by crisis, of course, banditry, kidnapping of schools, and all of that, right? That has greatly increased number, but 18.5 million, it's a lot of number. This is almost half of a country population, all right? And this is 8.7% of the world population of children that are out of school. And further study also with evidence shows that 38% of these 18.5 are girls, right? Which Malala Foundation, of course, cited. And sometimes in 2020, that's pre-COVID era, COAL as an organization, as Patient rightly said, we've been very involved in education. Is critical to what COAL we've been doing in COAL. And one initiative we run during that period was we adopted two schools. We adopted two schools. I think GSS Jiring, the one in the GSS in those of us that know Plateau very well. The GSS in Abattoir, and the one in there's another one close to JED office by GT Bank, right? Those two schools were adopted by COAL. And our work during that period, we interacted with over 500 school kids. We set up 2 libraries in those schools, supply over 1,000 books. And during our interaction, we realized that a lot of those kids could not read. These are children in junior secondary school. They could not read. Not just that, we realized that a lot of those children, especially the girls among them, are children, we'll call it child labor, because people bring these kids from village, they are underage, and using them as house help. And they send them to those schools, not really contributing anything to their life. They're not really learning anything and all of that. So that's affirmed this data, saying that about 3 out of 4 children in school are really not learning anything, right? They can't solve basic mathematics, basic comprehension. So these are kind of the problem we are grappling with. Now, driven down to Plateau State, of course, you will agree with me that Plateau State has experienced a lot of communal clashes here and there and all of that. And what this means is that children in all those communities where you have people have been displaced, UNICEF data has it that as of 2022, over 250,000 children are out of school. And those are numbers contributing to the out of school children. And these are the reasons why we COAL is taking this initiative from a Plateau State perspective. For the fact that COAL, of course, was Plateau born, the challenges facing Plateau State in the region is unique, and this is the reason why we're looking at issues from that perspective. So why the micro education grant? First of all, I want to just walk us through what the grant is all about. It's a 6 to 12 month program that is targeted at accelerated learning. So we want to co-create with initiative that are on ground, right? We, as Patience said, we don't see ourselves to solving problem. We want to contribute to the problem because we can't solve the problem in itself, right? We want to contribute to solving the problem. We want to work with local entities to see how we can solve the problem. And the objective is to improve educational outcome for children and youth in northern Nigeria. And we're starting with Plateau State as a pilot state. And the impact is to design and address and highlight challenges by enhancing learning for infrastructure as well, and providing teachers training, implementing innovative educational programs to uplift the affected communities. So what I'm saying in essence is, all the English jargon I'm speaking, in a nutshell, right? I've highlighted certain challenges, ranging from out of school children to how it impacts the economy, to teacher shortages, to children, even though they're in school, there's enrollment, but they're not learning anything, right? So in the midst of all those challenges, COAL wants to co-create with local entities, local non-profit, to see how we can solve those problems. Now, what are we looking for in this application? We're looking for, as I said, we're looking for partners. We're looking for partners who believe these partners have skills. You have contextual skills. You understand the local context. These are things you've been doing. Partners have already been working within the educational sector. This could be schools, this could be education experts and all of that. But we want to work with you to see how can we address some of these challenges we've highlighted. Now, some of the things we are looking for is the initiatives must be community-led, must be local and community-centered, meaning we want people that understand our context, right? We understand the context of this kit in question. Like I said, COAL has run a couple of initiatives in Plateau State, and we know what the challenges are within those local contexts, right? And we know that quite a number of these organizations locally doing amazing things, and we want to partner with you in that regard. Now, your proposal must be sustainable. We don't just want a situation where, of course, you're already working, you want to get funding to contribute to help you solve your problem or continue your work, but we also want to see how you plan to get to the point where you really need to depend on funders. Your project can be sustainable. Your project can run itself. As we do in COAL, we try to think outside the box to see how we can get funding by providing services to solve to be able to finance projects like this. Then your project must be innovative. I want to talk about innovation. Oftentimes, people just think innovation is technology. No, we want to see creativity. What creative concepts are we bringing in? Beyond technology, yeah, technology is inclusive, but beyond technology, what creative-driven solution are you bringing to the table to make your solution address the problem creatively? That's what we're looking at. Now, impact measurement. Your approach must be such that it is measurable, right? And you must have detailed plan to show that you plan to measure your outcome, to measure impact, and so that we can drive a collective result. Now, what kind of organization do we expect to apply? Of course, registered non-profits, which are youth-led and education focused, right? Community organization, schools, libraries, and other non-profit entities. Then organizations that we don't expect because of time, organizations that we don't expect to apply, private entities, of course, we're a private limited entity, we don't expect it to apply. Organization with no track record in educational activities. So if it is not your top, right? I think we want people who are trying to address the problem here, right? Not just wanting to give fund for give fund's sake. We want to address the problem. So we need people that have experience doing this. Now, if you don't have implementing capacity in Plateau State, say for instance, my organization is in Bauchi or is in Nasarawa, is in Benue, but we've done some work in Plateau State. We have a network in Plateau State. We are doing amazing thing in Benue. We are doing something amazing out of Plateau State. And we also have a network in Plateau State that can help us implement. So you mustn't be in Plateau State. If you have the capacity to implement in Plateau State, you can apply. But if you don't have, then don't bother to apply. Then the organization will have basic financial system in place. So one thing with development in Africa, we've noticed on the development space, the drive for the need for accountability. We must be able to see that you have a working financial system in place, right? We don't want a situation where we give funding and we can account for it. So we want to be able to see that you have how you've managed or utilized your own existing funding, running your existing project. That gives us some sense of confidence in your capacity to take on this fund and use it the way we intend it to be used. Of course, no, this is not a political driven initiative. So when we are not expecting political organizations to apply, it's strictly based on the criteria we've highlighted. Because of our time, I will be passing these across to Iyanu to take over from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Segun. That was very, very concise and in-depth and straightforward. Like, it was quite robust, and even some of the things that I planned to say, I think you've already mentioned them already, so I won't even be repeating some things. Thank you. That was quite on point. And please don't forget, people, you can still use the chat box if you need to clarify anything or ask any questions, although we are going to still answer questions at the end of the conversation. So basically, I'm just going to quickly run through the grant award stages and some of the things that we are trying, some of the key outputs that will be shining through in this grant and in the project, at the project implementation stage, so that we are aware of what we are looking out for and what we're expecting from applicants and candidates, shortlisted candidates. So for the stages, we've already put out the application, and we're expecting to close that on the 30th of June. So you still have the time to apply, even if you haven't applied already. And of course, I think after this session, you would be able to like have more understanding or more information on what, like Segun rightly sort of highlighted and spotlighted, the things that we're looking out for, so that if you need to quickly get some things together or finish some processes, you can quickly do that before the application closes. So that closes on the 30th of June. And then from the 1st of July to the 12th of July, we are going to have an internal panel review the submitted applications, and that's going to take us about 2 weeks to do. And after that, we are going to come back with a list of shortlisted candidates or shortlisted applicants, and we're going to inform organizations that have been shortlisted in the week commencing the 15th of July. And of course, when we send you that email, we're also going to send you like some form of work plan and what we're expecting from the things that we expect that you have in place, right, for this project, for you to be able to like access that grant. Like Segun rightly said, we want like some form of structure, within your organization. You're registered, you have your financial statement, you have, audited statements might be, that's like sort of a good thing to have, a very good thing to have. But at the very least, even if you don't have like properly audited account statement, you must at least have your financial statement or financial report, something that tells us how you manage funds and how you've like sort of, stewarded the past funds that your organization has received. So we're going to send you that plan so that you can begin to think about, some of those things before we even tell you to submit them. So shortlisted candidates, applicants will be informed on the 15th of July, from 15th to 19th of July. And of course, on the 29th of July, we're going to go back to the short list and still like review and check, information and all of that. And then on the 29th of July, we are going to look at the second stage of the application, which is to check the shortlist and now come with the final project that is going to or the final organization that is going to receive the grant from us. And of course, in August, we are going to kickstart the grant process, which is to award the grant and then also finalize all paperwork that you need to have or you need to submit or things we need from you, do the due diligence and check all over again if everything is in place. And of course, in September, there's also the institutional capacity strengthening of this grant process that is going to come up later in the year, which is also part of the full package of what we're looking to achieve with the grants. But I'm going to talk about that more in the next slide. So like I said, initially, following that, running through the grant application stage, I also want to talk about the pillars upon which our support is standing. Now, if you're very familiar with the development space, development ecosystem in Nigeria, Africa specifically, we get lots of money from the, international community, humanitarian organizations and, philanthropists. And, there's still that accountability framework missing for some parts of, that sector. Some don't have a test statement, some collect grants and then they can account for it. They can't account for the project. They can't, so we are trying not to fall into that category, with this grant. So we're saying that for this particular grant, we're going to be looking out for some key things that, that would constitute us having a successful grant process, if that makes sense. So for example, first of all, this grant process is based on partnership. We think that, like Segun rightly said, this is not a problem that one organization can solve. We need more local initiatives that also understand the problem, understand the context, and even these organizations have been doing, different works and then, championing different initiatives that have also contributed to improving outcomes for out-of-school children. And we think that, what, we can't do this alone. We want to partner with such organizations to improve, the quality of initiatives, to improve the approach, that we currently have for alternative education. And of course, to also learn in terms of, okay, you have, executed this project. We have done this. What can we learn from this project? How can we use this learning to create better initiatives and better approaches for out-of-school children? So those are the things that we're looking to get from this partnership. So also, I also don't want us to see it with the lens of, oh, this is just a grant, and if I'm not successful, then I can find my way. No, it's also about the fact that even if, and also don't forget, this is the first, this is the first one we are putting out for JOS. We're still going to have subsequent ones that are going to come out and other organizations are going to, benefit from it. So this is not about, okay, if you don't emerge as the winner of this particular round, then that's it for, we are thinking of, even if you don't emerge as a successful, applicant, we can still come together to create an ecosystem where we sort of look at internally and look at what we can do to improve learning outcomes and improve approaches and processes and some of the initiatives we create to help out-of-school children. So partnership, transformative outcome and impact. Like I said, we want to be able to measure how the impact of this project, we want to be able to see how it contributes to the problem that we've already highlighted at the beginning of this session. And of course, we also want that accountability framework, like Segun rightly said. I don't want to go through all of that again. It is that you have the proper accountability framework within the organization where, you can say that, okay, this is how we have, used the money, this is how we've used the grant, and this is how we are monitoring the projects that we are, we already won the grant for. So, like I said, I don't know if we already mentioned it, the grant is going to be, the project is going to be from a period of 6 to 12 months. And within this 6 to 12 months, you're going to also receive other information about what the cycle looks like when it starts, where it ends, and what are the kind of support that we are providing. Now, that's not a problem at this stage because we are still looking at applications and looking at, who's going to eventually emerge as who's eventually going to get the grant. So, next one. So like I said, one key part of this support is also that we want to be able to help or bring some sort of impact and some sort of capacity building opportunities to local initiatives. We also understand that for development sector in Africa, there might still be some situational issues in terms of, okay, how to carry out feasibility studies, how to carry out needs assessment, how to, organize projects, how to, think about communications, monitoring and evaluation. How do I even know how to monitor my project and see that it's working or not working? How do I improve my, next initiatives and next approaches with, current results and current data? Those are some of the things that we're also looking to bring into this round. And we're going to be partnering with key experts within the system for this particular aspect of that grant process. We have like development experts in Nigeria and Europe, in North America, that, have like different skills in project management, M&E, comms, grant writing, finance, programs management, programs design, which is very, very a key part of, ensuring that any project that I want to embark on is quite successful and structured. So we're going to partner with some of these experts within the process of this application, and we're looking at this September for this to happen. So of course, we're going to send you like more information about that once we like get to that stage. So I think I don't know if I'm missing anything, Patience, from the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just to kind of add that, these individuals that we've highlighted here, we might have to bring in more other like additional experts to it. But yeah, for now, at least these are the ones we've booked down for that session. So like Yana did say, it's really not about whether you're successful or not. I think we really want to contribute to that ecosystem whereby we have initiatives that have the right systems and processes in place beyond code, right? To be able to access the required funding that you need. And accountability is a very huge part of that. And that's something we also try to kind of, reflect. So if you go to our website, we're very transparent. Our audited account statements are there. Our annual reports, are also there, just so we're able to kind of support local initiatives in that sense, to have those right systems and processes. So beyond the funding, really, beyond the 500K or 1 million, because really that's small money, right? If you really want to do development. So I need us to think beyond just the money, to really think about those other institutional strengthening that will come along the way. Because I think for me, it's really being able to build that ecosystem where we can really partner and collaborate rather than duplicate efforts here and there, and then we can really make the required outcome or impact that we intend to see. Yeah, maybe just to add that. Yeah, and I think I'm supposed to take it from here to just quickly walk us through the application form and what each section entails and what the expectation is. Yeah, just let me know. Can you confirm that the application? Yes. Okay, great. All right, lovely. So in terms of what the application form currently looks like, this is it. Some people, I think, on this call or initiatives on this call have already put forward an application, but we just wanted to take some time to kind of walk people who are yet to submit an application to do that, and in terms of what the key expectations are. So, and maybe just to also add that after this session, for people who have already sent in an application, if you want us to open it up for you to maybe do some edits, please just send us an email, because I know that you submitted that application before this session. So if you need that window, right, if you need to make like any additional input after I went through the application form, please do send us an email and we'll do well to do that. So yeah, first of all, at the beginning, we just want to know what the name of the organization or initiative is. So your organization might be registered or not registered, but as long as you have a track record in any educational development initiative, it's all fine and good. And we understand that not every organization might have the required systems or processes in place. And because we understand context, and that's why we kept emphasizing that you don't have to have the best systems in place. We just want to see that you're really passionate about educational outcomes in the work that you do. It's really that simple. And then you have a track record of evidence to kind of prove that. So yeah, we want to know what the name of the organization is. You can just briefly tell us your mission. What is the mission of the organization? What are you, or initiative? What are you aiming for? What are you contributing to? Just very briefly. You don't have to use the whole 600 characters really. But as long as you hit the nail on the head, we're really good with that. And then we also want to be able to know if your organization is legally registered in Nigeria. If yes, just let us know. If you have an office address or if you're working remotely, just also let us know. And then you need to also indicate what geographical scope of your organization. Is it in a city or LG? Do you just work in just North or just South? Or do you have a national footprint? And then you have to, you then work in like other states, like Segun was saying earlier on. Just let us know, and you can, this is multiple select, you can choose if it's city or national, whatever it is, yeah, you can put it in there. And then official email address. So I must say this, like one of my frustration working in Nigeria is that a lot of organizations are not so responsive to emails. And I'm like, who does that? Like email should be your go-to, you know, ways of communicating with people, right? So our primary form of communication with initiatives will be via email. So please do well to check your emails. So we want to know what the official email address is. It doesn't have to have a .org or .com, because again, I know it takes money to have some of those systems in place, but just give us an email we can work with. And then if you have a website, awesome, because again, we want to be able to do our due diligence and ensure that organizations that apply at the end of the year, organizations that, you know, have some level of presence and things that we can verify online. And also please do well to add a website if you have one. If you don't have one, it's all fine. But at least we expect that no matter how, you know, local the initiative is, you should have a social media handle, even if you don't have a website. So I've seen some applicants just tell me the name of the site. That's not what we expect here. We expect you to put the URL, like the link, so that if I click or if we click on it, we're able to, it's able to take us to your social media handle. So please don't just write the name of the organization. We want to see the link. Just copy and paste it there, and then it should be able to take us to your social media handle, one or two. Yeah. And then what year or was your organization or initiative established? Just let us know. If your organization is registered, what is the CAC number? And then we also are very interested in knowing if you have like full-time staff or part-time staff, whatever the number is. If it is 1 or 2, please, you don't have to inflate the number. Like, just tell us what it is. I'll tell you for Co, for instance, all of us are volunteers, right? Or maybe not all of us, maybe 90% of us are volunteers because we have other jobs that we do. But the whole essence is just say the way it is. If you have just one full-time volunteer, it's all fine and good. Like, no, you're not going to get penalized for that. And then we're so very interested also in knowing, like, you know, the number of people that are full-time in your organization, as well as, you know, those that are women, those that are young people, because again, we have a bias towards, you know, organizations that work with young people. So we want to be able to know how many of those you have. And then for the person filling the form, is this the CEO? Is this the grant officer? Whoever it is, we want to be able to know what your designation is. And then the email for the direct contact, especially when we're not able to know or have an idea of, you know, who we can reach to directly within your organization. In case we're not able to get across with the official email that you share with us, is always good to kind of have, you know, a backup. And then the gender of the person filling it, as well as, you know, how you got to learn about the opportunity, because we want to be able to also learn as an organization to know what platforms or systems works for putting out this type of information out. Just a sec, let me just let some people in. Okay, yeah, and then we're done with this section that just let us know a little bit about your organization. Maybe I need to do this instead. So for section 2 is where we now get to the project information, right? So the expectation is that this is not a new project you're initiating. It's a project that is already in place, right? And then, you know, we're looking for either extra support to continue the work you're doing. So those are the kind of initiatives we're looking out for. So the assumption is that you should have been implementing your project at least for the past 1 to 2 years, because that's what we said in the call for application. So we don't expect new initiatives. We want to support initiatives that are already in place and, you know, that are already at the implementation phase. So you tell us what the project title is, and then the LGA where you're implementing the project, what year was the project initiated, and then here we just want to know, you know, a little bit about the project. So you need to describe what the project is about, what it aims to achieve, and those kind of things. And then who are your target group or demographic? I think this question is very important, and sometimes, at least for a few of the applications I've seen so far, kind of talks about it, but not so extensive. So here, Is your focus children? If it's children, we want to know what is the age range of the children that you're working with. Is it young people? What is the age range of the young people? And then we need to be intersectional also in our approach, right? Beyond just working with children and young people, what other dimensions are we looking at? Are we also working with people living with special needs? Are these, you know, a large chunk of your target group, people from like, you know, marginalized ethnicities and those kind of things. So providing a little bit more detail, I think will be really helpful, because sometimes we just put children in one category, forgetting that there might be other intersectional approaches or needs that they might have that sometimes we do not pay attention to. Like Segun was saying a while back about how we have children in public schools, but those children are children who are either serving as house helps in people's houses, you know, brought from the villages. And also if you have those contextual nuances to your target demography, I think it's very important that you kind of tell us a little bit more about that. If you're working with Almajiris, for instance, where, you know, where are those kids coming from? What is the contextual challenges within, you know, their communities or the system where they exist? There's a little bit more to help us understand who exactly you're targeting to support in your initiative. I think it's really great. And then I think the other one is just for you to describe some of the main activities that your project, you know, kind of works on and some of the expected outcomes out of that. So activities here could be that beyond just having, say, for instance, a reading club activity that you do with the kids, you might also have an activity that involves, you know, them engage in some type of creative, you know, activities like, say, painting, learning additional skills, or learning poetry, like those creative things that we're saying. Like, as much as yes, is literacy, what additional elements are you bringing to help kids to be a bit more confident in themselves, to be able to express themselves, to be able to use their mind, to be critical? Like those extra is what we're really aiming for, beyond just, oh, we have a book reading club with the kids and that's it. But it doesn't really tell us to what extent or something extra that you do to support the kids or the young people that you're working with. So it's really good that we're a bit more, you know, we elaborate some more when we kind of write some of these narratives. And then the other part is just us wanting to know if you could describe how your initiative promotes comprehensive literacy and educational outcomes for children or young people that you work with. And here, it's very important when we also talk about the expected short-term and long-term impacts of your project. So most times when you ask people, and I'm someone who loves data, I'm a monitoring and evaluation and learning professional. So most times it's always funny when I read documents and you ask people, what is the impact you've made? And they tell you that they've reached 500 children. That is not an impact, right? That is just an output. It doesn't tell me to what extent your intervention has been able to make the required impact or outcome that is expected in the lives of those children. When we talk about impact or outcome, you now need to begin to tell me that, yes, you read 500 children. Great, awesome. You have them in your reading club or in your reading clinic. But how does that translate to some transformational change, either in their confidence, either in how they're able to become critical thinkers, how they're able to be creative and create things that they couldn't do before? Like, those are the meat of it. And that's what you need to also show when we talk about, you know, what your expected impact is. And sometimes it's good to quantify them, right? So you want to be able to improve literacy by XYZ percentage. That is great. But you need to be sure that beyond just saying that, you have the required or the right systems in place to ensure that that is done. And that's why we're saying that at the end of the day, irrespective of, you know, if you come out, you know, top in terms of the initiative we want to support, we don't expect that you have all of these things in place. And that's where we come in to really collaborate with you, ensuring that we have the right tools and systems in place to be able to correct the data that we need to kind of, you know, amplify the impact of the work that we're doing. But at least we need to get a sense that you understand impact to some extent, beyond just throwing numbers, which is something we always do. So please don't just throw numbers. Tell us, explain how, like, what is the qualitative outcome or impact that you aim to achieve at the end of the day. That will be very helpful. And then how will you monitor and measure the impact of your work? That is very important. And that is my mom calling me. Sorry about that. But yeah, so briefly, just tell us how you monitor it. Do you intend to do some form of data collection? Do you intend to do like a baseline, midline, or endline assessment, no matter how simple it is? Because we can do these things, really, it's just knowing how to do it. And again, that's where Cole comes into support with some of these things. But at least let's get a sense of what it is, right? Yeah, so you just tell us what that is there. And then how will you use the support received from Cole to support your initiative? Please don't just write things. Again, tell us how. If you need the support to buy more books to support the kids, or you need the support to ensure that the kids have nutritious meals, when they're having those interactions, it's all good. Like, just say it the way it is, right? As much as, yes, we want to promote literacy, and we know that, honestly, to be honest, that money is really small money, right? Just say it the way it is. Do you need to support with like a volunteer support, in the initiative? If that's what you really want to use the resources for, just say it the way it is, right? We're going to look at all the applications and see the ones that make sense at the end of the day to say that we want to partner and collaborate with you on this initiative. And then very importantly here is also beyond, yes, we talk about education, but education is really broad, right? It is so big that sometimes you don't even know where to start from. Is it the issue around the lack of teachers? Is it the issue around the fact that a lot of marginalized kids that we work with sometimes might have other complexities that we need to address to support their educational outcomes? Is it the fact that schools are not doing what? So it is very complex, right? So beyond just telling us that they're out of school children and the regular things we always hear, contextualize the problem, right? So let's say, for instance, you're working in local community in Jos, say, for instance, Angwanrogo, for instance, I'm just using that as an example. What are the contextual challenges within that community around education that you're seeking to solve, right? Don't just go, hey, globally and throw data and, like what we always do. Contextualize the problem. What exactly is the problem within the community and locality where you're doing this initiative? So that is clear. And I'm sorry, I'm really rushing through these. And then how do you plan to ensure the sustainability? Again, one way you can ensure sustainability, of course, maybe this is, let me not say, so I don't throw some answers there, but it's very good that you work with the communities, that you work with locals within those communities, that they own the project, right? So that even whether you're there or not, like if initiatives is owned by the community, it's more sustainable than when it's always dependent on what you can do as an initiative. And like we always say, we should come to a point in development where we're no longer needed, because again, we really want to solve the world's problems, right? And just let us know there. And then around the budget, so it's possible that your project already has an annual budget that you're working with, right? So let us know what it is. And this is just to help us get a sense of what the actual budget of the project is. And then the total project budget that you're asking for from Cole, right? So here we just want to know what it is in terms of in Naira, what the total project budget is, and then how much you're requesting from Cole to support the work that you do. So the idea is that, or we believe that you already have your annual budget for your project, right? And then Cole is saying that we have between 500 to 1 million to support your initiative. So you now need to look at your annual budget and see what aspects of that budget can support the work that you do, and then you request that funds from Cole, right? I hope that is clear. So if you just need 500 or 800 or 600, just request for the exact amount that you need. You don't have to request for more when you really do not need more, right? So that's why we asked that question there. And then the last sessions of the form just looks at you providing details of any grants or funding opportunities that you've received in the past. And this is just for our own operational knowledge, really, just so we know in terms of your capacity also, and to be able to manage funds and those kind of, that's why we asked that question. And then we, again, just to get kind of sense check how long it took you to fill the form, so we can learn also if the form is too complex, so we kind of make it less complex in subsequent iterations. But that's why we asked that question there. Oh, but before that, please attach any relevant supporting documents. So most times people just attach their registration for certificate, CAC registration certificate. This is great, right? But honestly, I think beyond just adding a certificate, if you could add a report of your project and, you know, something that shows about the impact of the outcome of your work, I think that will be most appreciated to help us learn a little bit more about your work beyond just your CAC certification. I mean, that is great, but again, we need to see something more. So you could add, you know, either your annual report, a project report or document, anything that tells us a little bit more about your organization, I think would be great in that attachment part. Yeah. And then we just ask this question for organizations, whether they're successful or not, if they will want to be part of the institutional strengthening capacity aspects of the project. So we know, and we will only invite those organizations that are interested. The ones that are not interested, because we respect, you know, your concerns, data, and every information even we collect. After the application phase, we're going to delete them because, again, we strongly believe in privacy of organizations. But this is just to help us understand if it's something that, if you want a long-term partnership or collaboration with us as an organization. Yeah, that's my whistle-stop talk about that there. And I hope that is pretty clear, but we'll take questions just in a bit. Thanks. Over to you, Iyanu.
Thank you so much, Patience. Thank you. That was comprehensive and very, very straightforward. And I believe that everyone also like got that perfectly. Thank you so much. One just very tiny detail that I want to add. I'm not sure we mentioned it. I can't remember mentioning it, but just to say that also for your project and when you're putting together your documents, we don't want to fund overhead, personnel, and administrative costs, right? So like, I'm not sure we mentioned that. So when you're putting together like I think that will be in the second stage of the.
That will be for the shortlisted, but it's good people know now. So
Okay, yeah, so it's not, salaries are not included, or you know, personnel costs whatsoever. We're not going to be covering that. So just for information's sake. So thank you very much, Patience. Thanks everyone who has like contributed to this session. So this is the last part of the conversation today. We'll just like take a couple of questions. We already have some that were sent to us, and I think in the course of the conversation we already answered some. For example, can a non-registered organization apply? I think Patience said, did you say yes or no? Because
yes.
Shep said no, and you said yes. So I wanted you to clarify that. Okay.
So yeah, so like I said, you don't have to be registered. I think the grant is really rooted in localization, right?
Yeah.
So we just need to see that you're doing something that speaks to, you know, educational outcomes for children, right? For young people, I think I should stop saying children. For youth, right? So we understand that sometimes initiatives might not necessarily be registered, but they are doing phenomenal work. And we don't want to be like INGOs, no, because we understand the context, we understand the challenges that initiatives face, but we just want to be able to see that you have some of the basics that we can work with and then support you in doing this together, really, because we're looking for partners to collaborate on these initiatives. So you don't have to be registered. As long as you have a track record in that sector, that's totally fine.
Okay, thank you very much. So do you want to answer that one about monitoring and evaluation, or do I see one about clubs promoting education? I think it's about the project, not about what you do or don't, like the appellation now, clubs, or you know, you can be a book club as long as what we want to see is the fact that you have a track record of like sort of, you know, executing initiatives that improve education outcomes for the youth, for children, or some sort of form of capacity building. And also because, like she said, this is not a new project that you just want to start. This is something that you already started. So I think if you can provide evidence of, you know, having like doing that kind of phenomenal work or already started, I think that's fine. So it doesn't matter if you're a club or not a club, as long as you're doing the work and you can show us like through some of the documents that you would submit, I think we're good, right? Patience.
Yeah, that's fine. Because I mean, for a while, the project we did in 2020 was really setting up literacy clubs in schools. So that's fine. As long as you clearly show us a pathway in terms of how this is improving children's or young people's literacy, and bringing in other elements like, you know, creative thinking, critical thinking, confidence building, and any other initiative, really, I think that's fine.
Yeah, okay. And I think that also answers does this grant covers education on digital literacy also?
Yes, that's part of the innovative aspect. So if your initiative even has like a component of tech, awesome. So yeah, as long as you use different tools to do this, that's totally fine. I think there's a question though we've not asked, where this first one, where somebody,
Yeah, and the second one, yes, I think you can take both together.
yeah, somebody was asking, what kind of project do you expect us to present? Is it a play, short film? I mean, I think we're pretty clear that anything focused on education. So I know that Cole is a creative, we support creativity, but this is not one of those grants for that sector. But if you utilize some of these tools or approaches and we can see a pathway towards literacy development, that is totally fine. I think it's really in the innovation of the idea or the project you're putting forward. And maybe just to say that these are some of the questions we received before the session. So we're still going to open it up just in a bit. I know we're
questions in the chat box too.
Yeah. So this one says, do you have a monitoring and evaluation unit to make sure this money and initiative doesn't go to waste? I think when I saw this question, I just started laughing and I'm like, oh, I wish this person understands, some of the team members back and how much we do not joke with M&E systems. But yes, we have the systems and processes in place to ensure that the funds doesn't go to waste. And that's why, again, we'll be working closely with the initiative to develop more plans, monitoring evaluation systems for the project, because at the end of the day, really, we want you to be strengthened as an organization to be able to do these things on your own, whether we're here or not.
Thank you.
I think we've answered some of these ones. Then this one says, are organizations located in Northeast Nigeria eligible to apply? I think, like Shegun say, you can be in a different state, but as long as you have initiatives implemented in Plateau, because that's our pilot state for this project. And the reason why we're starting with Plateau is also because this is the pilot phase of this project. And we don't want to make it too broad that we cannot manage. So let's start from home where we're based as an organization, learn from it and see how we can scale up the initiative to other states at the end of the day. But yes, as long as you implement initiative in Plateau, you're eligible, even though your registration is in a different state, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah, we have more questions in the chat box.
Can you read them out? Because I can't.
So there's one about, let me start from the last one, which is that if we can share emails with participants, emails of fellow participants for further collaborations in the future. I would say this is a data privacy issue. So we cannot share emails, because like this is the serious ethical consideration, and we did not even ask for permission in the form to share anybody's data. And for me, I don't like when people share my emails with people without asking me. So, and we didn't do that due to that process. It's not included in this application. So no, we would not be able to share. But like we already mentioned, we are going to have other more collaborative, opportunities and sessions together. And it's also an opportunity for you to network. I mean, that was why we said people should introduce themselves so that you can also get to know people. There's LinkedIn, which is a very, very good tool for connecting with people. And also we'll have like some breakout sessions during our strengthening, institutional strengthening capacity sessions. So these are opportunities that you can utilize, for yourself to get to know people and get contact and ask for personal, what's it called now? Personal emails directly without, us sending it to you. So I hope I've answered your question, Jeremiah. And of course, the next question says that we didn't specify that private organizations are not qualified for the grant. What about social enterprises or private organizations that have initiatives under them? Patience, I want you to answer this, but for the private organization part, what I understand about this kind of initiatives, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if a private organization is embarking on this kind of project, then it has to be under their CSR, which is supposed to be, it's a privately owned organization, right? And it has a different model from what we are doing, like what's it called, advocacy and stuff. So they usually have the structure and the funding, for private organizations. At least I know that much. So I think that's like.
I think we should ask Shegun. Shegun is the finance person.
Oh, okay, that's true. Okay, are you there?
Yeah, Shegun. When we say no finance, like private entity, like what exactly do we mean by that?
Okay. So to put context to that, right? So we said we want an organization that education is their top, right? They've been doing something, they've got experience in it, right? For this phase we're dealing in. So if you're a private entity, it is not your turf, it's not what you do, right? It's just like by the side, right? This is not for them. Do you get the point, right? Because you for instance, when it comes to due diligence, accountability, and how do I separate your finance? How do I know if I say give me your finance book, you'll be giving me your finance book of your day-to-day business activity. It doesn't reflect this activity, right? So we want something that it's their turf, it is their. So for schools now, that's why we put schools there. We understand that schools are private entity, like we could have a lot of private schools. And I know with regards to what a lot of private schools out there, I know a lot of them are really contributing to education in the sense that a lot of them do have children of orphan, children of less privileged, who they give consideration to in terms of scholarship and all of that, right? We understand that aspect, but this is a targeted initiative. So we include private schools with exclusion of private schools, but private businesses, private, and because it's not your specialization, right? You won't do it the way we expect to be done, right? We want people that it is their thing. Schools, the peculiarity is because education is already their thing. Even though they are private entity, they can still operate the way and achieve the expected goal and objective.
Yeah, and maybe just to add that even with schools, like it needs to be extra, right? It's not just the fact that, oh, we're offering scholarship and that's it, right? I mean, that is great, but we need to see something extra beyond just that, because if you're already a school, it is expected that you do you contribute in some way to the communities where you exist. But what is that thing that is extra that you do to support educational outcomes for children? I think that's what we're really looking for, beyond just the fact that, oh, we give scholarships and then, there's really no evidence to kind of back that up. But I think, yeah, let me just leave it there so we don't kind of flog this too much.
Okay, Patience, can you answer the next one, which says that my organization did a survey on literacy and sorry, my screen is doing. Oluchi, can you help me with that question? My chat has suddenly gone blank. Let me reopen it.
Okay, Victor Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Victor Emmanuel is asking if his organization did a survey on literacy and numeracy in the past. That's like 5 years now, and have records of the finding, which is like our baseline, but because of insecurity, we have not done any activity. So can we still apply?
Okay.
I think Victor Asabe's organization is in the northeast or in a conflict zone area.
Yeah, I mean, if the data you collected is in Plateau, it reflects data from Plateau. I think personally, I'm very interested to learn more about, the findings from the data that you collect. But if it's not in Plateau, then I think I'll say no. Is Victor still on the call? So maybe he can unmute and clarify. Victor,
okay. Good morning, everyone. Yeah. Yeah, this is Victor. So the survey was done in Plateau State, in 6 local government areas of Plateau State. So some of the local government areas were, affected by crisis, like Bokos, Mangu, and Bassa. So yeah.
Okay,
so that's
great.
it.
So if it's Plateau, fine. Like he could put forward an application, and I mean, drawing from the evidence that you've gathered, maybe something that could be very useful is if you have either a summary of that report, you could attach it just so we also get a sense of, the level of work you've done, and how best we can support the initiative. So it's totally fine.
Okay. We need to really run now. This is already 18 minutes past 11. So we have a quick question from Jeremiah. As an organization, we have a serious issue. What is it that take a prudent organization whose aims and objectives is to deliver to the people, but they find it difficult to scale through selection during proposals? What does it take to get grants? What are do's and don'ts of application and proposal writings, as we have even invited professionals to draft and send proposals for us, but still not successful. Jeremiah Danasabi. Patience, you want to?
Yeah, so Jeremiah, that's I'm going to answer from two sides of my mouth because I think overall, and I think when we come to begin to do the institutional strengthening part, that's where we'll really dive deeper into these kind of things. You need to understand that how the ecosystem works, like how the whole granting and funding ecosystem works. That's a whole different, story that we wouldn't kind of finish if we want to talk about that on this call. So you need to understand that donors have priorities. And sometimes you might have a fantastic initiative. You put forward a grant proposal, even engage experts. I've had experience where we engage experts and still didn't get the funding that we had applied for. So it happens. So you need to understand how the ecosystem works. And that's why we touch on sustainability beyond just funding. So I'll tell you something that for a fact, like since we started COAL in 2014, got registered in 2017, we have not gotten any like major grant funding before, right? And most of the grants, small grants here and there that we get is really based on relationship. So you need to understand that a large aspect of funding and that ecosystem is based on some relationships that you're able to build within that ecosystem, even with donor agencies and organizations or people who work in those organizations, right? So that is that. And I will not be able to give you like, this is it, and this is the problem. It's very complex and all, and that's why we touch about what other things can you do extra to support your work. Like, a practical example is what we do in COAL, right? International development experts coming together to provide services to NGOs and the private sector, and that funding we use to finance our work because we want to be able to be sustainable beyond any extra funding. So you need to think as a social enterprise, really, in doing that work. And yeah, you just have to keep doing it until, something clicks to be able to support your work. And I don't know if that helps in a way, but if you join the capacity strengthening initiative that will be running sometime in September, we're really going to go deeper into this kind of dynamics and how to understand the aid sector a little bit better. And if you ask me honestly, we need to get to a point where Africa funds Africa. But yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
Let's not go into that discussion now. Yeah. But
Yeah, that was So nothing to add to that. Segun, you raised your hand, but
No, patient just touched on it.
okay, yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
It's a very complex ecosystem, and you need to be able to, sorry to use word, play your games right sometimes to be able to get into some of those rooms where those opportunities are. Thank you very much. So I will take one last question, and Oluchi already dropped the email in the chat box. So if you have more questions or we've not been able to touch on some of the things that you asked, although I think we already touched on about 90% of the questions in the chat. But if you still have more questions, you can just send it to info@coalng.org and we'll just pick that up. Sadiq, I know that you asked for that. Somebody said, can you clarify the part on sustainability? I know it goes beyond financial sustainability. What kind of sustainability are you looking at? Please clarify. I think, she already touched on it. Thank you very much. I think we've answered all the questions except for Paul Mike Soon, which I think Segun can quickly talk about in like 1 minute, just 1 minute. He's asking for the difference between private organizations and the schools. Let's assume the private organization is between education and technology. I'm not really sure I understand the question, but if Segun does,
I think people can unmute, really. Just raise your hand.
Paul Mike, can you
read
say more?
Yeah, you could just raise your hand and then unmute.
You understand the question. Is Paul Mike still there? Okay, yeah, he's still here. Paul Mike, can you just explain a little bit more? And while we're waiting for Paul Mike, if anybody has any other thing to say or to add, please can you just unmute, raise your hands and unmute, and we can give you like a minute or 30 seconds we still have about 5 minutes. Paul Mike, we can't hear you if you're speaking, not yet. We still can't hear you.
Maybe Segun just try and make an attempt to respond.
Okay. If I understand this question right, it's saying that even if the organization is a private entity and is into education and technology, but not the school, the goal really, right, is to ensure that the organization applying have some experience in that sector, right? It's not that if you're not doing anything within the sector, you're not doing an intervention in the sector, you will struggle. You won't be able to, it's not about just giving us a wonderful application. If you give us a wonderful application, but experience doesn't show that you have capacity in that, you've done something regarding that, we can't see previous impact and all of that, your application will still be turned down, right? So the emphasis really is just to ensure that whoever is coming up with an application or submitting a proposal has done some level of work, understand the context, and is able to support that with evidence. That's just the idea.
Okay. Paul Mike, thanks, Segun. Paul Mike, you are still raising your hand. Do you still want to speak, or I should send that to Emmanuel? Can you unmute Paul Mike?
He's unmuted, but I don't think
Okay, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
So Emmanuel, can you, while Paul is trying to sort his mic, can you just unmute and talk?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Mike. So basically, what I'm just trying to ask, I think Emmanuel answered the question, and he's actually having an experience in the sector and also being able to submit a proposal that targets audience too. So I think he answered the question. So it means that even though we are a private organization, but then we've been in between a social enterprise, let me use that word, so we are qualified to apply. I think I'm right.
Yeah, and as long as you have a track record and evidence to back your initiative.
Yes.
So evidence is very key. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
Emmanuel,
Okay, yes, I hope you can hear me.
we can.
All right. I wanted to ask, I know you've already specified like how much your grant is going to be, and I wanted to ask how many organizations are targeted to benefit from this grant? Is it just one? Is it 2, 3? You know, I'd really love to know that.
Yeah. Segun, do you want to respond?
All right. So the idea is, I think in the application document, the preamble to the application, we didn't specify at all, and that was deliberate. And this is because we are looking, depending on the quality, the level, or the number of quality of applications we get in, right? Internally, as an organization, we have a budget, right? The budget fund certain amount and accommodate considerable number of organizations. And as we said, this is a pilot phase. So say in this pilot phase, I get 10 quality application, right? We could go all the way, right? So it just depends on the quality of application we're able to get, the idea, the initiative and all of that. There are some robust initiatives you will get and you can't say no to them, right? We are looking for organizations to co-create with, right? So leave that to us. It just depends on the quality of application we're able to get. To get required quality of application, let it be 50. I believe we can fund it.
Yeah, and maybe just to add that really the emphasis, I think the grant is secondary, honestly. What we're really looking for is organizations we can collaborate with, partner with, build that required ecosystem, like, you know, the person who was talking about not being able to access grant. I think sometimes because we work in silos, right, we're not able to create this more like ripple effect in terms of the outcome and impact that we're making. And we just do things, you know, small initiatives here and there, and then we can't come together to make sense of it in a way that is more structured, that, you know, comes with this force in terms of we're really making change happen, right? Beyond I've worked in this sector for God knows how long, and one thing that I really frown at is just the buzz around development and people just doing things. But when you really ask about the tangible outcome and impact of those initiatives, we're often not able to say what it is, right? So how do we come as a collective to ensure that we're really making transformative change in the lives of the people that we aim to serve. I think that's really the goal. It's not even about the money or the funding that comes in it. And that's why we're taking that initiative to pull, development experts who are also passionate about this thing to be able to build those systems and processes in place and support organizations as much as we can, and then collectively share in that impact that we're trying to make. I think that's the core of why we're doing this really. Yeah, just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you, Segun and Patience. I think that was like very clear enough. It's about building the ecosystem and also like leaning on each other, that create that interdependence to collaborate and have something more structured and something more that has more voices in it than just one person trying to like, make the change themselves. So thank you very much for a very interesting session. I got a message from Yai. I think he wanted to send it generally, but it came to my direct message, which is that with the strengthening engagement, include interested organizations from other states, since we are not eligible to apply for the grant. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's open. But then I think that because the application form already said that if you are not going to be, executing in JOS, or if you don't have capacity executing in JOS, you are not eligible to apply. So should they still use that form?
Yeah, what I'll just say is you can follow us on social media really, because that will be made public.
Interesting.
Organizations from anywhere can be part of that institutional strengthening initiative. So yeah, as much as possible, let's work together, let's support each other really. We're also as small as you are, if you think about it in that way, but we're just trying to create that platform where we all can come in and learn from each other and support the work that we do really. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Patience. So yeah, we're also going to like send an email once like we've finalized that, and you're definitely going to receive an email. You're already in our database. So thank you everyone for a very good session. If you have more questions, just send it to the email that we shared earlier in the chat. And I think we have come to the end of the session. You'll be hearing from us if you make the short list, and even if you don't, you will still hear from us, and then we'll like sort of give you more information about some of the other things that we have planned.
Yeah, and just to say, because I love feedback. So please, if you could share a few feedback in the chat, because we'll get to have these later on. Just say a few things about how the session was for you before you jump off the call. I think we'll really appreciate that. If there's anything we need to do better, please just let us know. And after the session, even we're going to send through the recording. If you need to have that and refer back to that or share with other team members in your team, we're going to do that. But please just take some time to just tell us how the session went for you. It's been really lovely chatting with you. Just wanted to add that, Iyanu. Sorry for
no, that's fine. That's very fine. Okay. So I think we can just stay like we'll leave this open now for a while. That's still this link. So while you drop your feedback, and then you can log off after the feedback, and then we hope to speak to you soon, very soon. And we wish you the best of luck in your applications and also in this relationship that we're trying to build, right? So thank you all. Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you. And I'll put the music back on while we do that. We're still here for a few minutes.
Yeah. And you're free to log off also once like you're done.
Sorry, Iyanu.
No. I was just saying that they are free to log off once like they've dropped their feedback and they want to get about their day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really lovely. And everyone.
Yes.
I met you, you made me up, you made me feel as though I wasn't gone. We danced the night away, we drank too much. I held your hair back when you were throwing up. And you smiled over your shoulder. For a minute I was stone cold sober. I pulled you closer to my chest, and you asked me to stay over. I said I already told you. I think that you should get some rest. You then, you psych like when I was scared.